Hi, my name's DK from justadandak.com. This is a brief presentation that I gave today to a couple of folk in Wellington, New Zealand for the Speaking with Purpose course I threw together. 2-hour course as part of the chalkle.com guys invited me to put this together. First ever course I did for public speaking, and I had a lot of fun, and I thought I'd throw up the presentation that I gave today. So here we go. My opening slide, fantastic, can't beat a better animal. For the Muppets is, as I said, Speaking with Purpose was the title of the talk, helping people to think about public speaking in a different way, get better at it, get over their nerves, slide design, narration, everything, so on and so forth. So this is my opening presentation to those guys. I started with who I am, a short little lad from the valleys of South Wales, and I got them to also introduce themselves and also give a little bit of a feedback in terms of what they expect to learn from today. Very valuable, just around the table. I gave a little bit of myself and what I've done in the past in terms of my speaking career in the last 6 or 7 years, right from the Gates Foundation right through to big conferences in Lucerne, Switzerland, and even the small ones, and learned so much from those experiences, and hopefully today I gave something back to those guys who attended. So, like with most presentations these days, they start with a quote, some of them. So I found this quote, which I really love, is from the 28th president, which is Woodrow Wilson of the United States, who said this: if I'm to speak for 10 minutes, I need a week for preparation. If 15, 3 days. If half an hour, 2 days. If an hour, I'm ready now. And I wanted to make the point that when you are presenting, it does take a lot of work, especially to get it right. You know, I see a lot of speakers, as everybody have in the conference circuit lately, and you can see the time that they've invested in to craft the story, to craft the slides and everything else. It does take a lot of work, not only to get something good, but also to get good at something. And that was the point I wanted to make to the guys today, not to scare them off, just to make the point, to be transparent, that it does take a lot to get up and talk to a certain professional level, so we say. I also talk about the TED effect. Some of you will know this, so I've talked about this in the past, probably to your mates. This is the idea that, you know, TED and TED Talks came along, and it's really accelerated our ideas of what a good talk is. And when we go to conferences now and events, we, let's be honest, expect that caliber of speaker. And for conference goers, it's really, you know, heightened the need to be inspired. But for conference creators as well, they now are looking for people to be confident, to be able to speak clearly, to send a message, to tell a story, etc. And for those who are speaking, I think we really have to up our game. I don't think this is a negative thing, but it's just something to be aware of, to raise our games, which is fantastic. Also today, I just wanted to make a point, I'm not a guru. I certainly aren't an expert in this. I'm an expert student, definitely. I'm still striving to learn. I still got a long way to go, and I'm hungry to get better all the time. But I still hopefully have something to share. Like I say, over my last 6 or 7 years of doing this stuff, I'm still a pup, definitely. So I got into it. I wrote a blog post a few years ago, my top 10 speaking tips, and I wanted to share that today as part of my presentation. I asked the group to deconstruct my presentation as I went along, try and work out how I crafted the whole story through it, and to ask any questions as I go along. I'm not one of those precious speakers that don't like being interrupted. I actually welcome it. It's a conversation at the end of the day. So I started with the idea that you should finish your presentation the night before you actually give the talk, which goes against the grain for many people. But for me, I think if you complete it the night before, or this presentation I did in the morning before, it keeps it fresh. And it's depending on what industry you're in. Stuff moves so quickly that you want to keep it fresh as well for the audience. And if you're into a 3 or 4 day conference, sometimes your presentation has to change because some of the speakers already touched on certain points that you're going to touch on. So I'm a big advocate of finishing right as close to the line as possible on this, which goes against some of the practice wisdom on this, but hey, this is me. Another point of finishing so late as well, it doesn't give you a chance to practice. I don't believe in practicing. I believe in working out what you're going to say and working on and crafting stories, definitely. But a good talk is a conversation, and a conversation can't be planned and practiced really well in your brain, because you never know what's going to happen. The energy of the room might change. You want to make a point at that from the speaker who just went on, and there's no room in there if you've just got this practiced, specific, rehearsed, knowing what to say verbatim, and that's wrong. And if you can't practice anything, is a good time to think about is in terms of you don't want to stand up and preach, and practice things do come across as a little bit preachy. And there's another point I want to make with this slide is that don't create barriers between physical barriers. Lecterns aren't cool. You know, less is definitely more for when you're talking and you want people to see you in your whole body and you're moving how passionate you are into the stuff you're speaking about. And also, if you don't have a lectern, you've got nowhere to put your script, which is really important, because you shouldn't do scripts, you know. You shouldn't have stuff written down. That means you don't have your head down reading something, you're not losing intonation, you don't lose that connection with your audience, and you certainly appear more professional when you don't have scripts. I'm not saying don't have cue cards, but definitely if you ban podiums, man, you're going to hold on to them. This will scare a lot of people, but I guarantee it will sift out the fantastic speakers by not having a script. You should know your stuff before you get on that stage. The other thing I wanted to make, the point I wanted to make is don't let your client dictate the topic too much. Of course, they can give you a brief, love you to speak on X. But I had the only one time I allowed a client to dictate my talk right down to the slide designs. I really didn't do well because it weren't me talking then, it was them crafting my story in which I have to weave my way around. So be aware of that. You need to control a lot of what you say, and also you need to control your professionalism. Be a diva. Ask for specific things, what you need on the stage, what you don't need. If you're using your own clicker or your own MacBook or your own PC, demand that. You're a professional, you need to have your tools and control the level of professionalism that they're going to see. Now, one big thing to be aware of is to do this. Not dance, but certainly to move. You know, move on the stage, move your arms, your face, communicate with your body. It's not about words and slides. Maybe you don't want to do this much, but hey, if this rocks and floats your boat, do it. But you need to move. Don't just stand there rigid. You got to be animated, and you'll allow people to like you for that. Last couple now. Look at your audience, engage in them. Look into their eyes. This is harder for the real big rooms, but I hate those speakers that just look to the back of the room and you can see they're not engaging. It is hard, I totally appreciate it, but it is a great challenge. If you spot people in the audience with that body language, with the arms crossed, sitting back, I want those guys to come forward, so I fix my gaze on them, along with the people who are nodding or the people who are yawning, so I can catch them and give them a little wink and a smile because I caught them. It's really good. That's what a good engaging speaker, little tips there, does very well. The other thing good engaging speakers do is don't use bullet points. Okay, this kills attention. I can read faster than you can speak. Okay, so just get rid of that. You know, you can see by my presentation already I have one words on them. This is to drive the narrative, to know what I'm talking about on that slide. That's about it. I want the attention to be on me and my words and the stories that I create, not on my slides and all the information on there. It's very rare that I need to deviate from that idea. Also, I know a lot of speakers, this is the barrier, they're scared to even get on that stage. Now, a little trick I learned is the emotional and physiological responses to fear is exactly the same when you're excited. You know, that shortness of breath, the clammy hands, the sweatiness. So all you got to do in your brain is just to say, I'm not scared, I'm excited about getting on stage. And literally that has worked for me. And now I'm just a giddy kid trying to get on stage whenever I'm close to my little gigs. And I know I've shared that with other people, it's worked in the past. Might not work with you, but hopefully it will. Just give it a try. Try to trick yourself into not feeling scared, but feeling excited. Which brings me to my last point. You've got to enjoy this stuff. If you don't enjoy public speaking, don't get up on a stage. It's not for everybody, but equally, first thing you do on that stage is to smile, to look around, to thank people, to enjoy it straight away. And once you get into it, you're guaranteed to have some real good fun there. So that was my talk to them, and I also wanted to make the point at the end of those 10 points is that certainly this is not gospel. You know, this works for me, and it might not work for most people. And if there are some things in there you can take away, maybe half of them, that's fantastic. Go run with it, remix it, adapt, adopt, steal it. Just do whatever you want with that. And I wanted to share with the guys right at the end of my talk. I asked them to deconstruct it. Do you see there was a structure there? Hopefully a lot of them, well, I knew a lot of them didn't because they were engaged in my talk, in my presentation. That's a good thing as well. But I did want to break it down for them, so I shared the 3 C's of what I call the 3 C's of presenting, which is context, content, and conclusion. And when I kind of show you that the context of that right at the beginning was introducing myself, humanizing myself. I was a kid, trying to prove a little bit of provocation with some knowledge about the industry. That was the quote about speaking. I gave some general views about the TED effect, trying to really raise their expectation, but also humbled them, humbled myself to them, saying I'm not a guru, I'm just an expert. And then got into the content, which was my 10 points, which hopefully you had some fun with. And then last was my conclusion. And you can see now, if you just fix yourself to that really simple context, content, and conclusion in terms of producing your talks, hopefully that will help as well. And I ended up with, anybody got any questions? And there were some really interesting ones, and I'm going to put some notes under this video, or at least a link. If you're watching this on YouTube or watching it on Vimeo, you'll have the link back to my blog site, which will see some of the things that I shared with the guys today. Hopefully you enjoyed that. Hopefully you got something on it, and the next stage is for you guys to step up to the plate and take that forward. Let me know what you think. If you did have any questions while watching it, let me know in the comments. Seriously, guys, jump in, even if you disagree with me. Fantastic. Come on, come at me. I want to hear from you how you do this stuff better than I do, so I can learn from you. So thank you for that. This has been DK, justadandak.com. I'll speak to you very soon. Cheers.